Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about a pair of speaker stands, and these are the speaker stands from a company called Kanto. So they make speakers as well. They make active powered monitors, and these are the speaker stands that are actually made and designed to pair up together with their powered monitors. But you don't actually have to use them with their monitors. I mean, these are speaker stands. There's no compatibility issue except for the top plate. Now, some of you may be asking the question, so how does a pair of speaker stand actually impact the sound? And today we're going to find out for sure if the speaker stands actually do impact sound. So a lot of audiophile will invest a lot of money in speaker stands and tell you that, oh, it makes a big difference. It extends the high, it actually tightens up the bass and all that notes. But, it's all very subjective. And having been in this game for a while, I know the kind of snake oil that people try to sell you to, be able to sell the product, right? And speaker stands are no exception. They are probably right next to cables, right? Especially digital cables. Now, I'm not going to get into the discussion because a lot of you are going to throw flame, especially the traditional audiophiles. They'll say, oh yeah, the cables, of course, they are worth $30,000, but is it really worth $30,000? Maybe to them, but not to my ears. Now, in my channel, I do a lot of frequency sweeps of the speakers that I test out. Now, what I have here is a pair of Sonos Fives. They are actually sitting on the Kanto SP26. So I want to give you the summary up front first before we go on to the rest of the video. So in case you have no time to stay around and stick around, just take the summary and go with it. The speaker stands make a very, very noticeable difference. And I'm not saying this just from subjective view, from the fact that I spent a few $100s on the speaker stand, so it must make some difference to the sound. I'm not doing that. I actually did frequency response sweeps, testing the Sonos Fives on the speaker stand as well as on a tabletop. So for sure, definitively, we can tell that there is a difference. Now, how much of a difference? That's where we will get into details if you have the time to stay around. Now, before we go into the frequency sweeps a little bit, since you're still around, so I assume you have a little bit more time, I'd like to talk about the speaker stands a little bit. Now, these are speaker stands that are heavy, right? Each speaker stand is cutting in close to 7 kilograms. That's 6.7, 6.8 kilograms. I had a measuring scale, which I measured them out. Well, actually, it's a body scale, but the fact is that they are heavy enough to register. Beyond 5 kg, it starts registering. Anyway, let me stop myself from blabbering on. Now, these speaker stands, they are heavy. And for those of you who are familiar with pounds, that is 15 pounds per speaker stand, right? It comes in a pair. And the version that I've gotten is the shorter one at 26 inches. They have two versions, and the other taller one is at 32 inches. Now, the difference between the two, the price difference is probably like $10. So this goes for $169 and the taller pair goes for $179. Now, I paid for these myself, so these are not paid reviews, but I'm so happy with the results that I'm trying to share them with you. Now, you may have noticed on my channel that the speaker that has been sitting in the background has been on this stands for a while, but I never thought of, testing the speaker stands out. But I'm so happy with the results that I'm seeing today that I have to share with you guys. Now, I'm going to leave the affiliate links to buy these off Amazon down in the video description below. Now, for those of you who are in my home country, which is Singapore, you may have to cough up quite a bit in shipping to get them shipped to you because these are heavy. When they came in the whole box, the whole set, I think it was in excess of 14 kilograms, right? 6.87 kg times 2 with all the other extra plates and mounting equipment and the accessory pack. It was going to add up. I think it was like more than 15 kg. It came in a flat pack box. When I tried to carry it, it was actually very, very heavy, right? So you know you are buying into quality. The stands also come in black, and this is the black that we have, okay? And it also comes in white. The white one, I do believe that the foam padding at the top is still going to be black in color, and it has engraved into it the Kanto. Oh, I don't think you can see it, but yeah, here. So it basically has the Kanto logo engraved into the foam. A very nice touch. Now, a couple of things do we have to talk about this, right, before I go on to the mounting equipment. Now, it comes with 2 plates. This is the smaller one, which you can actually place facing forward or actually sideways. So it depends on the speaker orientation. Now, this will actually fit a pair of Sonos Ones if you are trying to put that on. But given that the price of the Sonos One is just about $200, paying $160, $170 for this, it kind of like makes it a little bit more budget unbalanced, I would say. Now, it also comes with a bigger plate, which is the one that I have mounted on this here. You won't be able to see them, but basically it's slightly bigger, which I am going to refer to the diagram here. So it has 2 plates here, right? So these are the 2 different sizes that you're getting. All right. And the Sonos Fives actually goes on this pretty well. It provides very, very stable support. Now, the plates, all right, the material that they use to make the speaker stands, they are solid steel, right? And it's almost impossible to flex. And if you look at the whole construction, the tubing itself, it is is hollow, right? But it has internal chamber where you can slot the cables. So the thing about Sonos speakers is that you only technically need a power cable. And for me, if you look at this B-roll here, I actually have slotted the wires from behind down the center tube. So from the front of the speaker, you're actually not able to see any cables at all. And the cable gets routed through to the bottom of the speaker stand, and you can then run it to a power point. Now, just bear in mind that the power cable that comes with the Sonos may not be terribly long. So it does mean that after running the 26 inches through the center core of the metal stand, you do have a lot less power LED left to run to the power point. So do ensure that you can position them properly. Otherwise, you probably have to run an extension cable. Now, talking about the top plate, right? So in both the top plate, the bigger one and the smaller one, it actually has a couple of mounting points. Now, you can see the mounting points pretty clearly. There is a center point where you can put a quarter thread, I think quarter 20 thread right through. And if your speaker has a mounting point, you can actually mount it through and secure it such that it doesn't fall off. But even if you can't support it, the stand is actually strong and stable and heavy enough. A pair of them coming in at close to 14 kilograms, it will be able to support quite a bit of weight stably. Now, there are a few more mounting points if you take a look at it. So what this means is that in the correct orientation, you can actually screw the plate to face forward dead straight, or you could angle it inwards or outwards by about 15 degrees per step, right? And you can then screw it down and you'll be able to secure it. The same goes for the bigger plates. So if you are in the habit of trying to angle your speaker to create a sweet spot, then you don't actually have to just turn the speaker and then it looks awkward because the mounting plate and the speaker is at an angle. You can actually turn the angle of the mounting plate without actually changing the position of the stand below. So on the floor stand, it can still sit flush to the wall, parallel to the wall, whereas the speaker will then be able to rotate accordingly to face 15 degrees left or 15 degrees right, or spot on in this particular case here. So all the hardware that is required to mount it is actually supplied in a small little box. I'll go through that box and what it comes with in just a bit, but basically this is the top plate that you're looking at, and this is what I mean by having being able to rotate it 15 degrees left or right or dead center, right? And once you mount it, you can actually slot it into the column, and this particular column here you'll be able to secure, so it is completely stable and it won't be flimsy. There are no rattling parts at all in the whole speaker stand. All in all, it is of fantastic build quality, and I really cannot recommend this pair of speaker stands enough. All right, so the other point that I wanted to make is this particular box here. So this is where all the mounting hardware comes in. And I actually have to talk a little bit about it because it does come with some spare accessories, I must say. Okay, so you have the mounting screws right here, and they come with the Allen key, which I've slotted back on. Now, these are actually metal spikes. Okay, so these spikes, They are meant to be used on carpeted floor. And they are also adjustable, so you can screw in and out so that you can place the speaker stand stably without any wobble. So I use the rubber studs, right? There are also 8 of them provided because I'm actually putting them on bare floor. And sometimes, in fact, in my regular configuration, the floor is parquet, so you don't really want the spikes to be poking through your hardwood floor. So I use the rubber stops. So if you look at this whole box, it's actually very well assembled, very well packed. I'm so happy with this purchase. I did pay a fair amount for it because of the shipping and because of how heavy it was, but no regrets at all buying this set. The next thing I want to do, which is what I do on my speaker channel. Some of you all have made fun of me before because I do frequency sweeps on a lot of things. So even, the chair that I'm sitting on, do we do a frequency sweep of the chair? No, we can't do a frequency sweep of the chair. But what we did today is we did a frequency sweep of the speaker stand. Well, technically not of the speaker stand, but basically of the speaker, which in this case is the Sonos Five, on the speaker stand versus the frequency sweep of the speaker on a tabletop. Now, this tabletop I have here, it is not the most stable tabletop, but it's a fun one. It is height adjustable electrically. And it is a single column. It is not very big, and basically I'm using it in this room temporarily before my solid hardwood tabletop gets installed in a couple of weeks' time, right? So before then, I'm just using this. So in a lot of configurations where you guys are going to be using the Sonos Fives, you're either going to be putting it on your computer tabletop or on your work desk or on some TV cabinet, most of which are going to be using engineered wood, either plywood or something like that. You may also have solid wood table, but they may not be as secure and as stable as a pair of these Kanto stands that we are talking about, because these are really heavy, really, really stable. Now, you would be thinking that there may not be an appreciable difference, but this is where I'm going to prove you guys all wrong today. In fact, I was also very surprised by the results. I mean, I've been listening to the pair of Sonos Fives as surround, but they have always been on the stand. And I don't remember it any other way because it has been on the speaker stand for a very long time. I've had this pair of speaker stands for well over a year now, actually. So I'm just going to be pulling up those frequency sweeps, and you can take a look for yourself how it all looks like. Okay, let me just position it properly so you can see it. Okay, so this is a frequency sweep of the Sonos Five, not of the speaker stands, but of the Sonos Fives, either on the table or on the Kanto speaker stands. So the first line I'm going to be pulling up is this bluish or cyan or teal, whatever, okay, the lighter line here. Now, this is the frequency response of the Sonos Fives all the way from 20 Hz up to 20 kilohertz. So if you look at it, the Sonos Fives is actually known for very good bass response, all right? And we are looking at a peak at about 90 Hz here. It's peaking out at about 94 decibels. Now, again, I was close miking it, and this room is pretty small. I set the volume at 50%. Take it and compare it in relative terms, okay? It doesn't mean that the speaker is maxing out at 94 dB. It doesn't mean that at 50% volume, you're going to be hearing it at 94 dB because you are definitely going to be further away from the speakers than my mic was to these speakers when I did the frequency sweep. The Sonos Fives, the bass response is actually very, very good. And if you compare it to the rest of the curves here, okay, you're going to be seeing some ups, some valleys, and some hills all the way up to 20 kilohertz. So there is kind of like an extended response for the higher frequency, and that's 10 kilohertz that we are looking at here. And this is about 100 hertz, all right? And all the way down to 30 hertz, all right? You're still hearing things, all right? Which is in line with what the mid-range is giving. The mid-range here between 300 hertz all the way to 3-4 kilohertz is at about 84 dB, right? And at 30 hertz, you're still hitting in excess of 84 dB, right? So the speaker does very, very well. And this is the response of the speaker when it's on a tabletop. Now I'm going to be pulling up the next chart, and the next chart is in red. and it is of the Sonos Fives on the Kanto SP26PL stands. And this is it. All right. Okay, let me just run through this a little bit before I run my conclusions. The bass response is actually slightly extended below about 60 hertz. All right. So the rate chart, all right, it does actually help with the bass a little bit below 60 hertz, but the difference is a little bit. It's small. All right. And what is notable is that from about 70 hertz all the way up to about 200 odd hertz, the speaker seems to be putting out a little bit less sound than if it were to be on the tabletop, right? So you think, hey, actually that means that it is slightly more subdued. Well, that's one way to look at it. So it actually tapers the mid-bass response a little bit when they are on the Kanto stands. But above about 200 or maybe about 300 hertz, all the way up to here, which is at about 3 kilohertz, 4 kilohertz or so, you will notice, I'm going to highlight the red line. You'll notice that actually it flattens out the entire response range here, as opposed to the tabletop, right? At the tabletop, it's going to go up, go down, go up, go down, go up, go down, right? So it's not a smooth response in the mid-range, as opposed to the speakers on the Kanto speaker stands. The whole mid-range here is kind of flattened out. The response is even, all right? So when it comes to vocals, when it comes to enjoying music, the mid-range is going to sound a lot smoother if they are on speaker stands, on this particular pair of Kanto speaker stands, as opposed to being just laid anyhow on the table. And I did this in the exact same position, right? Basically, I was putting the speaker, just at the exact same place. It's just the difference just being whether it's on the stand or on the table. And because it's height adjustable, I also adjusted the table to the exact height of the stands, which is at 26 inches off the ground. So, okay, if you look now beyond what happens at beyond 3 kilohertz, now this is stunning, all right? And I didn't expect the speaker stands to make so much of a difference. If you look at the response, the red curve with the Sonos Fives on the Kanto stands, they're actually experiencing a huge boost throughout, all the way from 3 kilohertz up to even 20,000 hertz, right? The response in the treble range is actually a lot better than the response on the tabletop itself, right? So the blue line, the side line, is actually on the tabletop. The red line is on the stand. So if you look at it, I'm highlighting the blue line. This is tabletop. And I'm highlighting the red line, and this is the speaker stand. So you can see that there's actually a remarkable difference, a remarkable boost in the treble, all the way from 3 kilohertz upwards to 20 kilohertz. So I really didn't expect the speaker stands to make such a big difference in the sound of the Sonos Fives. And I am so glad that I invested in them. Now, they are not cheap, right? The $169 to buy a pair of the speaker stands at 26 inches, and the 32-inch version will cost $10 more at $179 US. But if you think about how much you're spending on the Sonos Fives, the Sonos Fives comes in at $1,000 a pair. And I have done in a previous video right up here before that I think that they are the best sounding stereo pair of speakers that you can get for $1,000. And bear in mind, they are actually powered. Powered meaning to say you don't need an amp to actually drive these speakers. They are already powered on its own. All you need is 2 power points, plug in the cables, and you get the stereo pair. So there are 6 drivers altogether, 3 bass drivers and 3 tweeters, and all of them are individually amped. So basically, one speaker has 6 discrete amplifiers inside. You buy a pair of them, there are 12 drivers, 12 amps for $1,000. Now, this $1,000, a pair of speaker stands at $179 is really nothing compared to that. And if you can get this kind of improvement to the sound based on a $179 investment, I think it's a no-brainer. Now, again, I said, these are not sponsored reviews. Kanto didn't send me anything. Nobody sent me anything. I bought these with my own money. So if you found this video helpful, I really appreciate if you could leave a subscription, leave a like, leave a comment on this. Any questions that you have regarding this pair of speaker stands, leave them in the comment section below and I'll try to get back to you. And for those of you who are interested in contributing some coffee fund, here is the QR code. And this QR code will link to my Patreon account, which I'll link down in the video description down below as well, where you can make a small contribution to my coffee fund and help me out on the channel and help keep content like this coming along. Again, only if you found this content useful. Now, again, all the links that I'm going to be linking to, I think there are 4 variations, the 26-inch and the 32 inches one, and both in black or white. I'm going to be linking them to the Amazon store where you can get them. And last I checked, just about half an hour ago, well, before I filmed this video, as of, this is the 11th of July, they are still in stock. So do check them out. I think you'll find them worthy investment to support your Sonos speakers. And again, these are not specific and limited to Sonos speakers. They actually position these to support their own Kanto drivers, but I am actually using them for the Sonos Fives and it fits perfectly with the larger plate. I can actually use the smaller plate and position them horizontal, in the landscape format, and it will still sit the Sonos Fives, just a little bit tight, but it still fits. So the video today I have done, and this demonstration, it actually applies to most other speakers. Of course, I can't test every single speaker out there, but specific to the Sonos Five, it actually makes a remarkable difference. It probably boosts the levels below 60 Hz a little tiny bit, but the whole mid-range is smoothed out and the treble is increased tremendously. Okay, I'm going to stop gushing about this product. Done with today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.